All right, guys. Well, welcome to episode 67 of the Overview. I'm ChanManV, and joining me tonight are Fishstix and ZP, my co-hosts. As always, what's up, fellas? Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, hold on.
It just doesn't quite feel the same.
Without the intro video, yes. I know the
Wait,
intro
I can do it.
There you go. I'm actually updating
good.
the intro video anyways, but I've been trying to set up a new machine. The video, for some reason, does not like my new machine, so we are just not having it today. But we do have a new guest, or a very, a special guest. Actually, Jake, have you been on the Overview? You've never been on the Overview.
I've never been on the Overview.
Yes,
I have been on Unfiltered.
Yes, so this is a first-timer tonight, and I want to welcome Jacob Wolf, ESPN reporter, writer, all that good stuff. What's up, buddy?
Doing well. I'm doing well. Getting ready to fly to Evo tomorrow for yet another fun event.
Oh, that's
nice.
A hectic
Yeah.
weekend.
Evo is great.
But
I will see you there, my friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oh,
Ben's
cool.
probably gonna be there. I
Yeah.
don't think Ben has missed an Evo in like years.
no,
This will be
Evo-
number
Evo's
7. Wait, 6?
It-
6.
It's probably the busiest week of my life aside from like the League of Legends World Championship because
Really?
the content demands for both of those events is just unmatched. So I am looking forward to the more Overwatch events I do, especially the big ones, and what they like compare in terms of like how much work. But yeah, League of Legends and Evo are always just swamped. Like this.
What are
week
you
it's been
covering these days?
hectic.
You're covering League of Legends, Overwatch, and just all of FGS or FGC, or just Smash, or anything specific?
So I liked it. I've kind of went back to the business world aside from like League of Legends roster season. So a lot of stuff I do is like signings of players and things like reporting on the Overwatch League buy-ins and
Okay.
monetary exchanges and things like that. But my games, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, Overwatch, 4 FGC games, so both Super Smash Bros. Titles, Street Fighter, and Injustice. And then I think I'm forgetting one. And yeah, Counter-Strike and LoL. Counter-Strike and League.
All
So
right.
those are
Solid.
my... And I like a lot of them too, and I play a lot of them.
Well, that's good
try
that
to
you
play video
like
games
the
all the
things
time,
that you're
but-
covering.
Yeah.
What do you think of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite? Just to get that out here right now.
So I've only played a little bit of it. I do have the demo at home. Generally seems like a good game. I was a big fan of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and all of the versions of it. So it's very different because it's 2v2 and it's a lot slower, which I think is to kind of attract more viewers and a more popular audience as the FGC grows and does things like television. But good game. Curious to see how it is when it comes out in September.
All right. Well, given that we're not a fighting game show here, why don't we get back to Overwatch? And we had some big news today that was announced this morning, press release in the morning by Blizzard. And it's definitely a lot that was reported by you, Jacob, last week. But they have announced the first 7 cities that will be partaking in the Overwatch League. And along with that press release, obviously came a video that Nate Nanzer, was doing this kind of official announcement, as well as we see a Twitter account now for the Overwatch League, and then a few tidbits that we'll talk about in a second, just for the press release. But I want to start off with just getting everybody's reaction to the announcement this morning. Ben?
Nothing too surprising if you've been following the rumor mill and the leaks. A lot of this was already out there. That said, of course, you can analyze this and just dissect it in 100,000 different ways. I'm very interested by the specific list that was announced here. I think one of the things that really stood out to me is that there's only really one endemic team owner on this list. Noah Winston for Immortals. You could argue, of course, NRG is an endemic team, but they're very new. So is Immortals and NRG are both new. But when I look at these teams, I think like Andy Miller, okay, he's like a tech mogul. He's been around in the sports industry. Out of the 7 teams, there's only one that really truly feels like a grassroots endemic organization, and that's Immortals. But obviously, like, we knew what was coming. We were at BlizzCon. We knew Robert Kraft was there. We knew that was going to be a huge deal. And just to get an official confirmation that Robert Kraft and the Kraft Group are backing this game and this esport fully is an incredible revelation to get that officially confirmed. I mean, that alone is an incredible news story for esports, and not just Overwatch, but esports broadly.
Yeah.
Having the news out here in general is very, very good because, yes, even for those that have been in and around the scene, have known a lot of this in the shadows for a while, where, as Ben mentions, a lot of this isn't too much of a surprise. I mean, people hear rumors and whisperings on the inside, but there's a lot of people that don't, right? There's a lot of people that aren't able to follow it as closely. So having this out there in full, having a relatively, it's an impressive list of owners. So to have that out there in the open, it's a very good thing. I mean, it's a case where you had people, of course, speculating, going, well, gee, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. Well, now you have a better idea of what's happening. And for me, it's promising, right? Where you already know, okay, these are 7 cities that are starting out with. On the North American side, you have some classic sports cities like, say, Boston, LA that are already involved.
New York and SF.
So, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, so as far as it goes, I mean, I think it's a very positive announcement.
Mm-hmm. Jacob, I mean, you've always been just been hearing all about this for months now. So, what do you think about the timing of it by Blizzard?
So I think it was a little slow, but I understand some things had to change to kind of get everyone in on this deal, to kind of have everyone participate. My understanding is that some of the terms, not the buy-in price, but some of the other terms, rev share and stuff, have been a little bit more adjusted and communicated between all parties, Blizzard and the teams. So I understand why it's slow. Nate Dancer has done a lot of flying. I hope he has a frequent flyer account. But how many people he's gone and seen, and how many people I know he's talked to. He's been in front of a lot of investors, sports owners and not sports owners, business moguls too. So great news. I'm very happy that it's finally out there. I am sick of hearing endemic teams who do not have anywhere close to $20 million say that they have spots in Overwatch League and attempts to sign players. They are full of it. So I'm very glad that the 7 founding teams is out there, because now it's very easy to say, look, this is who has the spot. Go sign with them, not somebody else.
Yeah. I'm just in the same boat as all you guys. I mean, it's definitely really, really happy that this news is finally out there. Not surprised, but I think the real question for me is what's next? These 7 cities are officially announced. I know I can understand why they waited for 7 or just at least a number that's in this kind of range, just because, when you first come out, you want to be announcing a good group of cities. You don't want to just be announcing one city at a time and doing that sort of thing. So I kind of get why they waited for this, at least this collection to get solidified and out there. But now it's just like, okay, how many cities are we going to have in total in the first season? I don't think it's just going to be 7. I think this is just.
I hope not.
Yeah, no. This
7 would be a weird number. That's the case.
True. The conferences would be off.
League that opened with 7, so
yeah.
that in itself
Lucky
is
7,
actually a good point. As a good omen is that you'd have to think that there's more cities involved, at least one more, but very likely more, because this would be sort of an odd opening number, to say the least. Yeah,
let's go through this list. We haven't even gone through the list yet. So it's Robert Kraft, chairman and CEO
with that, maybe.
of the Kraft Group and New England patron Robert Kraft. Jeff Wilpon, co-founder and partner of Sterling Venture Capitalist and CEO of the New York Mets, which he's probably better known for. Noah Winston, CEO of Immortals. Ben Smoot, CEO and co-founders of Misfits Gaming. And what's interesting about Ben is he's got Miami and Orlando. How did he arrange that? Because those are different cities, guys. Right? They're not, just Florida, like the Florida Marlins or anything like that. So
it's actually a pretty easy answer. I don't mind saying it. The six teams, not Misfits, were on this list as of last Thursday. Misfits was added on this list over the weekend. So they were a quick close. Okay. It was going to be a 6-person announcement, and number 7 came in right before this planned announcement, which was always today. Okay. So it was going to be announced today regardless. It was going to be the 6, and they closed over the weekend.
Okay, so we'll get to Ben in a second, but Andy Miller, chairman and founder of Energy Esports, NetEase, and then Kevin Zhao, who's co-founder of Kabam, or Kabam, however you pronounce that. So with the Miami-Orlando thing, is it just an issue of not knowing which one it is, or does he actually have 2 teams, or what is that exactly?
He has 1 team, 2 cities. So he will be representing both.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting.
From my understanding, I did not hear a lot of Florida names in this conversation. I heard a lot of different names in the conversation of cities and potential investment partners and things like that. There were not a lot of people that were discussed about in Florida. Misfits was the only ever credible one discussed in Florida. So, yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I think is really worth noting here in this list, and it is remarkable, because just the level of respect he commands. And I'd be curious for Jacob's point of view on this, but Robert Kraft, there's no doubt that in terms of the sporting world, he is one of the most respected owners in the NFL, both for his success in the Patriots and just generally how he handles himself behind the scenes. How important is it for Overwatch League that you have someone like Kraft involved early on in the process that does command that level of respect, where a lot of people go, well, if Kraft is doing this, this is clearly smart. Like, how does that help Blizzard, I guess, going forward?
So Blizzard has sought Bobby Kraft or Bob Kraft for a long time. He has been one of the earliest people that they talked to, which is why he was at the Overwatch League meeting. He is also a very good friend and golf buddy of Bobby Kotick, the Activision and Blizzard CEO.
Yep.
So he's great personal friends with them. In fact, when I first started reporting on this, and one of the reasons I first heard the Kraft name, I think at the beginning of April, towards the end of March, beginning of April, right after South by Southwest, I came home and started digging, and that's what I found. The reason we waited till May to report on that is because there were a couple things. So there were a lot of numbers being thrown out that were different. If you remember, the Sports Business Journal reported that the initial buy-in was 5 to 10 million, with upwards of like 15 in bigger markets.
Yep.
That's not the case. 20 million is the correct term. But there were a lot of bigger numbers too. Like
not confirmed by Blizzard yet, but
yeah. So there's been a lot of numbers that were thrown out, and there were a lot of weird agreements. But essentially, Bobby Kraft has been in this fold for a while, and he's kind of commanded respect. And Blizzard's used him as a token. Blizzard has gone to other owners that they've pitched to. They've gone to other owners, and as you can imagine, Blizzard has gone, hey, we have Bobby Kraft committed to this, so should you. And, they've used that as basically leverage. And, he demands a lot of respect. What the Patriots has done as an organization.
It's like recruiting. You gotta have your star recruit so that you can lure other people and maybe even help him recruit some for you too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the first few teams reported, Richard reported that it would be the Miami Dolphins, RSE Ventures, which are the owners of that, which they are not buying in, as you can tell based off the list, or at least not currently. And then additionally, the Crafts. So the Crafts they have been a motivating tool to other teams, and Blizzard has used them exactly as that.
And I don't want to extrapolate on this too much, but I would not be surprised at all if the entire reason that the OW League was even birthed into existence was because Bob and Bob were able to hit it off and get this relationship going. Obviously, there's all kinds of things behind the scenes to take into account, but having somebody like that alone can be enough to get this started. And I really think that is one of the big motivators here was just having that initial buy-in. I mean, if you actually watch the Bloomberg interview, it looks like Bobby Kotick and Bob Kraft, they're like, patting each other on the back.
Got their arms around each other.
You can see the camaraderie between those two men.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just obvious. Like, it's obvious. He's been around. He's been involved. He saw Overwatch League, get announced in November and seen the thing. And the Kraft Sports groups are no dummies. They have a lot of money. Robert Kraft is worth like $5 billion net worth last time I checked. They have a lot of money, but they do business well, and like using them as leverage is intelligent by Blizzard.
Well, the other thing too is that Kraft is always looking for new opportunities. I mean, you stop and think about something that's worked out really well for him too, is that he also got involved in Major League Soccer. Like he's the owner of the Revolution as well, got into that very early, and that's paid off as soccer has gone up in popularity as time has gone on. So, I mean, he's someone where, especially when it comes to the sporting world, he's not shy about looking at new opportunities.
So one thing to his credit from everything I've heard from people is essentially, and I don't want to harp on him too long, is that a lot of NBA owners, the reason they're so good at business is because they look at other opportunities outside of their basketball teams. So they look at tech opportunities that benefit. Well, Kraft has that same mentality, even though he's much older than a lot of the NBA owners. And the fact that he's built things like Patriots Place in Boston, and he's built all these like tech show fun, come see the football game, but also have some fun doing other stuff that's not football. So he said in that Bloomberg interview, like we look at sports in general, and we look at what's viable in sports, and we believe this is something that is.
Yeah, and that's the type of people we're looking for in terms of investors in esports. Are folks that I think come from different places and are hopefully going to bring some of the good things from those things into what we're doing here and kind of mix it with what we're doing. So I think one thing to clarify for a lot of people listening or watching is just the buy-in amounts. So just to be clear, for these 7 teams, was it the same buy-in amount for each of these cities? And then the next question is, will the buy-ins be different for future cities, or will they just be the same for every single city in this first season? What do you guys think?
All 20 million, from what I'm told, all $20 million across the board for all 7. Subject to change, I would imagine. It's 20 million over time as well, to clarify. It's not like you have to write a $20 million check to Blizzard right now. You pay that over time, over a number of months. So 20 million across the board, not guaranteed if you buy in at a later date. Particularly, say they do something like an expansion, price will probably be bigger. After they start the league, and if the league gets popular, then I would imagine the price doubles, triples, quadruples, bigger and bigger.
Right.
So.
Okay, that's so getting in early, I guess, is a good thing. Is what I'm, I guess, trying to get to, where a lot of these people are waiting, right? And I think a bunch of teams that we've been talking about taking a step back from Overwatch are in a mode where they just want to see what the first season's like, second season's like. Maybe they try to get in later, partnering up with maybe some other investors and things like that. At least that's kind of what I'm envisioning from a lot of folks now. One of the interesting things that was mentioned in the press release is they talked about just some of the revenue generation that's included in it. And one thing that they brought up was just that the teams are allowed, or will have the license to operate and monetize up to 5 amateur events in their home territory each year, and then to benefit from the sale and league affiliates, fan items, and Overwatch, with 50% of the revenues going into the net share revenue pool for all the teams, which we'll talk about in a second. But that mention was actually kind of cool. Like that was something that I hadn't heard up until this press release. So are they going to be using these local sites as a way to do some of these smaller events that we've been maybe talking about or missing, like in the community? What do you guys think?
Well, they have left open the possibility to do so. I mean, where that goes in on the spectrum of stuff in year 1, I guess we'd have to see. But it does mean that was a consideration that was being had, where maybe things are going well. Because one thing I'll say is that geolocation seems to be a really key part of this, right? Where you want to promote the city and everything else. So having local tournaments where you now have, say, I don't know what, say, Boston to be called, but the Boston Overwatch franchise is now holding a Boston-sponsored Overwatch tournament, etc. I mean, it's a good way of promoting the franchise, it's a good way of promoting the game, so on and so forth. But, I mean, the key thing there is that it's something that they have in mind.
Also, remember, Overwatch League is only supposed to be a part of the year. So there's a whole there's a whole off season where there are going to be plenty of opportunity to host tournaments. Who knows? Maybe we get an ecosystem where you have a traditional sports model where there's a really consistent schedule every single week. You have play days for 5-6 months, however long it is, and then the entire off season you could have the same caliber of teams potentially playing in tournaments. But I don't know. It seems it's an upside, but I don't really know how many team owners and coliseums are really going to want to do this. I mean, look at the Overwatch ecosystem today. ESL, DreamHack, MLG, they haven't had any tournaments in a very, very, very long time. And everyone's like, oh, we don't know if we want to do this because Overwatch League is looming. But why would you host a Smash Bros tournament? DreamHack has Smash at every single event. it's not like they're banking on getting into the Nintendo League. That's not going to happen. I mean, maybe it will. Let's cross our fingers. But so people are already not hosting major LAN tournaments for this game. So I don't really know if it's going to be huge. Like, even if there is a long, lengthy offseason, are the players and teams really going to want to go to these big tournaments? And if it's like this, if it's only B and C tier level teams, the tournaments aren't going to be that hype anyway. So it's a nice to have. And maybe it'll pan out into something good. I'm just not super optimistic.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that it's only 5 amateur events too. Like, there's an actual number on it, so it made me think that there might be bigger plans in the making for it.
I have some counterpoints to both of you. All right, so anyone notice how after Alienware Monthly Melee ended, that there's surprisingly no more amateur tournaments over a $10,000 prize pool?
Yep.
And that's because Blizzard cut those off because of contenders.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think part of buying in is you get to host these, and there's one team that we haven't talked about in depth here that actually I think will take huge advantage of this, and that's Immortals. They are in they're in LA. They're in a giant market, but not only that, their most recent investment comes from AEG, which is an event company that owns not only LA Live, which is the centerpiece of downtown LA and sports. It's where ESPN's LA offices are. That's where Staples Center is. That's where Microsoft Theater is. But they own Staples Center. They own Microsoft Theater. They own the Novo Theater, which is a smaller theater. So they own 3 different size venues: a small venue, a medium-sized venue, and the freaking Staples Center, like where the Lakers and the Clippers play basketball. So I really think if you're Immortals, this is your time to kind of make money, because you can host like amateur open tournaments in LA where you just have a bunch of teams to sign up, and who cares if they're not good? Like, it's just another money
thing here. And this is a case where I guess it depends on we don't necessarily know the specifics ourselves, but I would say key here is, what is the definition of amateur? If the definition of amateur is anything that's not an Overwatch League tournament, then that is bigger, right? Because you could leverage all of that to host a very, very large event that could have a large prize pool and basically be every bit the event that you would see from a just large LAN event held in any other game. And it would still be classified as amateur in the sense because it wasn't an official Overwatch League event. If that's the case, then there's really big potential there for the offseason in terms of what you could run.
Yeah, but if it's something that's no prize money or anything like that, then yeah, it's not likely to be a very big thing. I'm thinking it's going to be what Jacob's alluding to, which is they're going to be these type of tournaments that we've been used to, and it's going to be potentially made into a bigger LAN tournament. Does that mean that they can just host a bunch of teams like from all over the place and just have them come there? Or is it supposed to be more, focused on, say, if we're talking about Immortals in LA, is it supposed to be focused on Immortals and doing like a show match type of thing, or, that includes Immortals? And that's the thing that I'm wondering what that's going to encompass.
I have a feeling if you're in a big market like Los Angeles or New York, and you have a venue you can use for free because it's you're invested in by the people that own it, and you just like open up that like, hey, we're gonna throw $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 in this prize pool, and you and your buddies can sign up as a team of 6 to play Overwatch. I have a feeling that will make some money.
So
like,
you mean like the old MLG model? Like you got to pay to play.
It's literally the FGC model, dude. Like you pay $60 to register and you enter. Like
I mean
that would be awesome.
Honestly, like I actually love this. I love this idea. Nothing like the one thing that, as an esports fanatic, the last 6-7 years have been insane. The growth every single year has been significant. But the one thing that always was in the back of my head is like the amateur semi-pro scene has nothing going on, and like there's very little to build up. So, maybe you're onto something, Jacob. This could be pretty cool.
And honestly, think if you're a team owner, right? Think if you are Immortals. Think if you're Noah Winston and you have to go to AEG, pitch, like you go to your investment board and you're like, hey, I need $20 million to pay this to Blizzard to be a part of this. And you look at one of your biggest investment parties or partners and you say, hey, I can give you more events where you just make a bunch of money. Like you charge somebody like $30 to $40 to enter it per person, and you just make a lot of money. Like that's what I got when I saw this amateur tournament thing, was essentially like you can just host tournaments for fun and just use your weight and use the venues that you have connections with and just make money. Like you can do it. It's Blizzard cleared. It can have a prize pool that you can set up yourself and you can make returns on it.
Yeah. That's definitely really cool. Okay, well, getting back to just like the owners and the teams. So right now, one of the things to think about right now are just like, okay, what teams are these? Because we have some teams that are obviously going to be associated with these owners, and like Immortals, obviously, right? Misfits, obviously, NRG, obvious. What about the other teams? Like, what are you guys thinking? Are we going to see Envy at one of these basically be picked up from one of these teams, and maybe Rogue and just full teams right now from these 7 owners?
Well, if you go all the way back to BlizzCon last year, it seemed to me and to a lot of people who saw what was going on there that Blizzard's biggest goal and major intention was to get the endemic esports team owners into the same room with the mainstream sports owners and big investors and the money people. So that in my perception of it was they really want to actively encourage Cloud9 to talk to owners of X sports team and so on and so forth. So my original expectation was that was going to happen. And they're going to try to do buddy system, and every endemic esports team is going to try to find a money guy to help them out and give them a stadium and all that stuff. Money guy is a very derogatory term. I shouldn't put it like that, but you get what I mean. Now, all of a sudden, that is starting to seem slightly... I don't know. I don't know.
Look like that's happening at all.
The fact that it's $20 million, what incentive do they even have to bring in an endemic esports team? I mean, the knowing how to market to the fans, like having proper player management, sure, but you can just cherry pick and hire people from within the industry. So I really don't know. Like I truly hope that is where we go, where we do see Robert Kraft work with, Jack or Cloud9 or whoever else. But all of a sudden, hearing $20 million reaffirmed and basically confirmed now, I don't know. I'm not sure it'll happen. Who knows?
Well, it sounds like some of these teams are, that have gotten investment recently, and we were all anticipating they would be making a play for Overwatch League. It seems like they're making plays in other games also. So in terms of these guys that are in it for the Overwatch League, is it a matter of just not being on, just not being on the same plan with that? Like, let's just say Robert Kraft isn't interested in any of the other esports, like not League of Legends or anything else. So is that going to be conflicting with working with, like a Team Liquid or a Cloud9 or anything like that?
Well, so I have a feeling just kind of, on the point of what Fishstix was saying, I think that we'll see a mix. I think we will see some people who hire managers that have worked in the Overwatch and the esports spaces, and managers will assemble teams on their behalf. But I also think we'll see teams get bought out. I know that there are a few teams on this list that don't have teams like Energy and Immortals and Misfits that probably will just straight buy a team, like from another owner. They'll buy all the contracts and they'll buy a manager, and like, there you go. Like, there's your Overwatch
That's not surprising.
team.
Yeah.
And hey, I mean, Cloud9 benefits from that too. They get money.
Right.
Look, one clear thing, one key point you're kind of touching on here is like, well, what about the endemic orgs that have teams in multiple different games? It's like, if you take a look at how teams run things in the more traditional sporting sphere, you don't have it run in quite that fashion. You might have an ownership group that has stakes in different organizations, but generally speaking, there are lines drawn. Like, you don't have the New England Patriots running both a football team and a soccer team. Like, no, you have, even though Kraft owns both the Patriots and the Revolution, those are still two different entities. You don't have the same management directly doing
we
one.
We saw Paul Allen too, right? He owned like the Seattle, Portland, and So
right. So it's a case where, as far as that goes, there is that I do think the endemic orgs, as esports gets bigger, as you do get more viewership, as you have more traditional interests looking to esports as a way to bolster live viewing audiences in a time where a lot of people are going to Netflix or going to things to avoid, basically have the scenario in general viewing that makes live sports really attractive. So that's going to make esports more attractive. But going forward into that, I do think we're going to be moving away in general from the idea that you have this like one mega org that's running multiple teams. It makes more sense to split things out in the longer term.
Oh, really? Okay. So we'll have less of these all-encompassing esport brands and more specific to each of the games.
That's where I would imagine things are.
I think that's possible. I think that's possible.
Never really thought of it.
I also also think it's worth mentioning that you mentioned that teams are raising capital and spending it on other things. So the other spend is the LCS, the League Championship Series, which is half the price for something that's a little bit more established. It's $10 million buy-in, $10.3 million. Or no, it's $13 million if you're a new team. So I think there are a lot of it's conflicting messaging to me. Blizzard was if you remember 2 months ago, Blizzard came out and responded to several reports and was like, hey, we're very inclusive to endemics. I got to talk to a couple of endemics about it as well. Sure, you're inclusive to endemics, but at what point? What if those endemics don't have $20 million to drop on your league? What if those endemics would rather drop $10 million on Riot's league? Especially if they already are in the Riot space, if you're a Cloud9, which recently sold 10% of their equity for $3 million. Means they're valued at $30 million. So, yeah, I mean, at what point do you just say, I'd rather invest in that than this? And, like, Blizzard is subconsciously, or rather not subconsciously, excluding endemics by making such a high price point.
What was the timing of the Riot one? Was this in response to Overwatch League, like purposely
It was
to
actually
be competitive?
So Riot's been talking about doing it since like end of 2015.
Okay.
So it's been a discussion with owners and businessmen and everything. But they did. So after all the articles were published about Overwatch League being a $20 million buy-in and kind of alienating both endemics and sports owners that didn't want to pay that much money, Riot about 2 or 3 weeks later announced all their details. And from my understanding, Riot has a big line waiting out of the door. And that's the difference, is Riot doesn't have to sell anything. They don't have to make the phone calls that Nate Answer is making.
Well,
they have people ready to buy it.
They have a product that's already been going for years now, so they have something to show.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. And it's twice as much too.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of optimism about Overwatch League being bigger because it's a newer game and it can grow. Right, that's kind of the argument.
Right.
Is League of Legends may have peaked, right? Like you're buying into League of Legends a little late,
Right.
But the argument for Overwatch League is it's new, it's hip, and there's a chance that this is nothing's even started as to how big it's going to be.
Well, you touch on a point that I was about to make here, which is that here's the thing about esports games, that as we would love to see an esports game last for 20, 30 years, etc. And who knows, maybe that'll be the case. We're always waiting for the thing to buck the trend going forward. But one key advantage that Overwatch would have over League of Legends that you're alluding to here is that you have the case where League has been out for a long time. People eventually do sort of get perhaps a little bit fatigued on games. Now, we do have games like Counter-Strike that have been able to reinvent themselves over time, so we'll see. But there is the idea, or perhaps you take a look at trend-wise, that League might have already seen some of its best days, and perhaps now will be more in the downtrend, whereas Overwatch, it's brand new. We don't know just how far it can go, and particularly how far it could go if it's supported by a really good structure from the very beginning. So there's more of a X factor there when you compare it to League in terms of just how long your investment in Overwatch might last versus how long your investment in League might last.
And I think the buying in early point that Chris passingly made earlier, that ChanManV made earlier about, and that we talked about, this is 20 million, right? You buy in early, you're a big part of it. Imagine if you were to buy into the NBA 40 years ago, right? Before it was a big thing.
$100.
Now imagine if you were buying, now imagine if you're buying into the NBA now. That price is probably 1,000 times more. So I think that because Overwatch is new, Blizzard is playing to the optimism product. We are going to try our best. And I do believe they're going to try their best, regardless of previous shortcomings in other games and some fall-throughs. I think they'll try their absolute best to build the best esports product they can. And to be bigger than League of Legends, to be bigger than Counter-Strike. That's their goal. So they're playing to the optimism of buy in early, be a part of this, and we're going to work our butts off to make sure it works. And you're going to help us with this as team owners. And instead of buying in later for, say, let's just guess a number, $300 million, you're buying in now for $20 million. It's much cheaper. You're part of it from the beginning, and you can go ahead and start getting work done, and we'll help you out. So.
Well, the other thing about that, too, is that you also have the entire idea is that how do the minds of people that are involved in early investment, VC, and otherwise work, right? Is that they're more interested in finding things that give a gigantic value where they'll invest in multiple different things. But generally speaking, they're looking for the huge payoff rather than the small payoff.
100x,
Where,
yeah, the
right,
100x
where-
type of things. Yeah.
like you look at the Riot setup right now, like let's say it's 10 million for a Riot spot. Maybe if you look at league trends, that ends up being worth 30 or 40, you know, handful of years down the line. Like who knows where that's going to go. But it generally speaking, in terms of speculation, you look at something like Overwatch League, you mentioned number 300 million. You're right. It could go 20 million to 300 million. And when you look at it that way, you are potentially getting a much bigger bang for your buck. Although, as mentioned, you're doing something that does have more risk. It's a game that still has to fully prove itself. But that's something where it's still going to be more attractive than the idea of something just being a smaller, more measured return.
Yeah.
If you're going to get even that on the competitor side.
Well, so let's get back a little bit to just the league itself. There's a few more details. The first thing was that the first season is going to take place, or at least the first regular season will take place all in LA. So that decision was made just because there's a lot of teams and organizations that reside in LA. So it seemed to be the most convenient place to do it. There's also obviously studios there, you know, Blizzard's obviously there too. So not surprised they ended up doing that. And I think that's details that we all knew too. We all knew that it was going to be at least in NA the first season. So what is that going to mean for all these guys? I mean, are they all just going to live in LA? Is that the deal for all the teams?
This is one of the things that like I know the Blizzard people. I'm sort of in the know. I've heard a lot. I follow really closely, and I still don't have a clear picture of what Overwatch League is supposed to look like many years down the road. My interpretation is that early on, everyone's going to be in LA. Everyone's going to be in one location. But that, I mean, the whole idea is you're doing team-based cities and leveraging the existing arenas all around the world, the coliseums all around the world. So, I mean, my guess is like the first year or two, it's probably going to be in LA in one location. And then like, as it gets more solidified, it's going to be a global thing. But then are you going to have teams flying to different continents every week? Like, so I don't even know. Do you guys know any better than I do?
Well, as far as that would go, I mean, clearly you don't do geolocation without some form of plan to have actual home and away games. It would be really silly to do geolocation without that. I think that much is objectively obvious from the outside in. And then you take a look at how travel plans are done in other sports. There's plenty of ways that you can set up schedules or otherwise to accommodate, even if you do have to go to a different area otherwise. Like there's plenty of ways of making it work as far as geolocation goes. But again, you don't go, we're doing this in all these cities and then never have plans to actually have local games in those cities. That would be silly.
Yeah.
So there's two things I think about this, in my opinion. So the first one is not every single one of these teams owns a venue, or rather the investors. Particularly in Asia, neither one of those parties owns a venue. And there are relationships between some of the NA parties, but the only one that has unlimited, or the only two that have unlimited venue access are the Misfits because of the Heat, and they own the American Airlines Center in Miami, and Immortals, which are LA-based. And if I had to guess off the tip of my tongue, I would assume that AEG, one of AEG's properties, will be the home of the Overwatch League for the first year. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like AEG is already they have a team now. Immortals has a team. Why not just use the Novo Theater, which makes total sense. It's a small to medium-sized theater in Los Angeles. Like, fits the description, fits the bill. But I think the flip side of that is you give them a season or two, as Fishstix mentioned, to find a venue that suits them in their cities, to find out the logistics of being in those cities, and then simultaneously you can start doing product activations around those cities. You can start doing like Miami businesses advertising with a Miami team and things like that. You can start leveraging that. That's another big part of this that a lot of people haven't talked about, is that there are a lot of things you can leverage because of your location. That's why spots like New York and Los Angeles are coveted, because they're big cities. You can activate. That's why athletes sometimes go to certain teams, is because they want to be in a bigger market. They want to be able to get more advertisements and get more endorsements. So I think that's a part of it.
And just to add on to that as well, you also have the entire situation where you think about fandom, where I know general esports fandom likes going, but no, the great part about esports is it's global. I can root for anyone. The great part about sports in general is that you can still have that ability to root for anyone. There's plenty of people that are Yankees fans without being in New York. Unfortunately, I don't know why you would root for the Yankees, but hey, whatever floats your boat. But you have the case where there's a lot of people that root for Hometown Laundry exclusively. I will point to my dad, someone who does not really follow esports all that much, but is intrigued by hearing that Robert Kraft has picked up a Boston area sports team, because my extended family and my father, all from the Massachusetts area. While I couldn't really get him to watch Overwatch too much before, if I could point to him and go, look, the Boston area Overwatch team is doing really well, he might start tuning into those games by pure virtue that it is a Boston area team.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for the power of geolocation to bring in fans that might not otherwise be fans. And you see this in every single sport, where you have plenty of cases where people will be just sort of casual fans of a team because they're local, despite not having any appreciation or necessarily like deep passion for the game they're watching. They just find it cool that there's an event that represents their city and they have a team for it that's doing well. So that's the real power of geolocation here that I think is very, very good for esports as a general rule. And it's honestly long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, accessibility has always been, I feel like, the coolest thing about this, just geolocation play. And I mean, it works. The closest thing that we've ever had is really college. Like just having all the college leagues that we had. I mean, I can tell you, my wife, like, she'll literally watch and root for anything that's a Florida Gator type of thing. I mean, she was watching Heroes of the Storm, all right, like, or at one point and seeing if whatever colleges were there. I don't think the Gators are actually there, but she was actually looking for at least that team there. So there is definitely a lot of power in that, and I think that's going to be interesting. I think the local business like you were talking about, Jacob, is a really, really good point. One other thing that they mentioned is that the schedule is going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, matches on 3 days. And if you really think about the league as something like the NFL, which only happens once a week, right? And it's like Sunday, it's all of Sunday, and we have like 32 teams playing each other, and actually there's usually bye weeks for some of them too. So 14, 15, something like that, right? 14 or 15 games each week. And that only fills 1 day on Sunday. So what are we going to do here? Are we only going to have like back-to-back matches? Like they're definitely not going to ever be any overlapping matches, and just have each of these teams travel to the location and do it like that? Are they literally just going to play one match like each week? I
could see that being I could see that being feasible. I mean, one thing you forgot to mention about the NFL is that their Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football do exist. I think that there's a chance that like you have one game Thursday, maybe two Friday, 4 or 5
and just
Saturday.
Show them all, right? Just okay.
Yeah, and if you're in LA, then you can just do exactly what Riot does. Riot does 2 days a week, or 3 days a week now. They do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you just can buy tickets for all of them, or you can buy tickets in a bundle to go for an entire week. I think that will probably be feasible if you're a venue that's hosting these events, because I suspect, at least for the first season, that they will all be at the same venue. I have a feeling that either Blizzard or through Immortal's partnership with AEG, I have a feeling that they will find one venue in LA and they will stick to that for all of season 1 until everybody gets their own venues, and then they can travel.
Yeah, but buying tickets.
So I hate to wait, Chainman. I hate to interrupt here, but you are killing us right now. I don't think it's going on stream, but like your microphone is really staticky. It's so hard to hear what you're saying right now. Please, like, restart Discord or something real quick. Please save us.
Hopefully, Chris can just restart Discord or something.
No, it should be better now. Is it better now?
Are we good now?
Yeah, it should be better now, right?
No.
No? Oh no.
Rip everything. Oh no, you sound good now.
Okay.
There you go.
It's just my interface. It freaks out sometimes. So.
That's the case where it's just like you weren't looking at this guy. It's like, all right, I'm going to be the guy that mentioned this. And
no, that's cool. That's
totally. It needs to happen.
Totally fine.
Thank you, ZP. I was sitting over here like closing tabs because I thought my MacBook was overloading, and then it was just Chris.
It happened.
Yeah, so paying for a ticket to go, like to something like Riot that's 2 days and it's a lot of matches, I can totally see that. But what are we paying for if we go in a ticket? Like if I'm going to go to the American Airlines Arena and go watch Misfits play, I mean, am I literally just going to go for like an hour, and drive all the way to Miami just to look at something for an hour?
I'm just going to go out on a limb and make a random prediction. First couple of years, first year or two is probably going to be LA only.
Yeah, of course.
In future years, I wouldn't be surprised if what they do is they bring all the teams to a location for like 2 weeks or
like a traveling
3
type
weeks.
of thing. Okay.
And then they have all of their matches happen in that one location. So the local fans will have 1 or 2 chances every year to I don't know. That's just I don't know if that's true.
This was actually a thing. That was do you remember the Super Weeks in LCS? And back when LCS was initially operated by MLG in 2013, yeah, that's what they did. They toured
what?
twice.
I don't remember that.
They used to
and also,
bring all the
yeah,
teams.
MLG is involved. They do like the concept of touring to begin with. So yeah, I mean that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that's a very viable idea after because MLG helped co-run LCS in 2013 silently, and then additionally there were the Super Weeks up until 2016. Where essentially twice a season, like week 5 and week 9, you would go out and you go to a special location. You'd go to like PAX West or PAX East, and you'd have all your games there for a weekend. And that wasn't your normal studio location. So I actually think that's fairly viable. It's a good idea.
It's the Overwatch League tour kind of thing. That would be pretty interesting. That sounds like something that would help too. I think that would be really, really great for the fans. And if you're talking about ticketing and all that stuff, it makes more sense.
I think it generally, like, the whole point of geolocation now is to start getting things established. Like, you as an owner, you can be like, hey, I have the rights to this. You can go to local businesses and say you are the Wilpons, or say that you are Energy and you don't have necessarily a venue connection like Immortals or like Misfits. You can start making that connection as the league progresses. And then once they reach the point where like everyone's confident they have a venue, and they have those agreements in place, then you can start doing your touring. So I think, yeah, LA for the first couple of seasons is a fair assumption.
Okay.
So we've been theory crafting for a little while.
Yeah.
I wanted to get to one aspect of this, which we haven't really touched on yet. We have 7 teams announced. We have 5 North America, 2 Asia. Obviously, there's more coming, but a few things stand out to me. No European cities. I actually was kind of surprised by this. It definitely seems like they're prioritizing NA, and they can't forget about Korea because the Korean Overwatch scene is so strong, and China is such a huge market. So it's like, to me, it feels like, okay, let's do our thing in the West, and then like we have to tack on these other regions because they need to be part of this first announcement. But I was surprised that there's no London, no Berlin, no Paris. None of these cities were in this at all. And I'm also surprised that, it's only one team for Korea. So I guess like multiple pronged open subject, like I guess what cities do we think need to be in there? What do we expect to be in there? Will there be multiple teams for individual cities? Because Seoul should have 5. Let's be honest. Seoul should have 5 teams. Like it would be kind of weird if they didn't.
It'd be sad they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just wanted to delve into that for a second.
It's a global league. Let's just be clear. That is what we are seeing from everything they're going there. So I as far as it going forward, like I would assume at some point we will get European teams in there probably before the start. That would be just my guess, given the fact that they're literally announcing teams on a global map. It would be weird if Europe wasn't involved in some way.
Well, that's a good
They
point.
have to be.
And
Yeah, they have to be. Come on.
And frankly, it's not for a lack of trying. Nate and the Overwatch team has done a lot to try to include even some places I didn't think they would. I know that he had some meetings with people in the Middle East that were interested in discussing the Overwatch League.
I love it.
Yeah, so I mean, they're like, it's
cool.
not because they're not trying. And to their credit, they have made a lot of calls and made a lot of meetings and have traveled a lot of places. I'm sure that his corporate credit card, which is loaded with travel expenses. But I do think there will be more cities. In fact, I'm fairly certain there will be more cities because as of today, even with the 7 announced, I heard that they were making phone calls to try to get more people and to encourage people to buy in. So I'm confident there will be more cities before launch. And second of all, he also Nate Nancer told Fortune magazine flat out, we expect more cities before the closure of the first season of the league. So yeah, I think that Europe, there's a lot of speculation on why no one in Europe is bought in. I think at least one will buy in. The problem is a lot of the European endemic teams that would be bullish about doing this, like your Fanatics, they don't necessarily have capital to just shell something like $20 million easily, and all the expenses that come with operating an Overwatch team of that caliber.
I mean, they don't even have teams. They don't even have players. Like there's so few actual
even
teams right now.
The thing is, even if you had the European players and the team, like it's more than just 20 million. You have to operate a team house. You have to do all that other stuff that's just like normal, or just like any other esport or any other team esport. So the thing is I have a feeling that yes, there will probably be more. So
yeah.
I think that we'll see at least one European team before this closes. I'd be surprised if not.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I wonder how much of it has to do with operations too, just generally for the first few seasons. And even though Overwatch is supposed to be a global, and I know they're already getting some flack, but it's good that we're talking about that they have been making a lot of effort to try to include teams and cities from all over the world, including EU and Middle East and things. But sometimes it is better just to start, let's get this league going. Let's get the operation of the league going and, work out all the kinks. There's going to be a ton of kinks in the first year or first 2 years. And then once you go there, once you actually have a product that you can show, then, expanding, going, full global becomes more of a, it just becomes an easier thing versus just trying to start like all over the world right off the bat. So I know they're not doing it, but I wouldn't actually fault them if they were actually trying to focus just here, in North America. And then, of course you have to have some teams in South Korea just because it would just be wrong. And in China, you can make a decision on that just because of the market. But I wouldn't fault them for just focusing on North America and expanding from there. And a lot of teams are already waiting anyways. So it is really important that they show a good product in the first season and first 2 seasons, I would say.
The best descriptor, which I've heard from like 6 or 7 people, is waiting around the hoop, like a basketball analogy. Like we're interested, but
for rebound dunks.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Basically, like we're interested in the Overwatch League, but we're not committed yet. But we're interested in the Overwatch League, and we're not going to say no flat out, right? Like maybe there is a world where if something works out and we do buy it. So that's kind of been that's been the analogy that I've heard a lot, verbatim those words. So I think that there will be more before the launch. I think it would be silly if there weren't. Especially if 7's not an odd number if you think about, or 7 is an odd number, not an even number.
We're not doing
I would be really surprised.
Round robins, please.
I feel like season 1 needs to be 10 to 12 teams at bare minimum. I think 8 teams would be boring. I think that would just, I don't know, personally.
And I think that 10 to 12 is feasible because if one report about 6 teams can get another 7th team to buy in over a weekend, what do you think a press release about 7 teams can do to other people? There are probably a lot of people that had phone calls today that were like, yeah, we want to do this. And like,
there's probably like 5 people calling Nate's phone right now.
Right.
Like as we
there's probably a lot.
I mean,
I'm pretty
sure there's more than 5 people calling Nate's phone at any given hour. Like Nate is one of the hardest working people in sports. It is actually insane. I think one of the funniest things for me is that anytime I get a chance to visit Blizzard, it's always like wondering, is Nate going to be here? Most of the time it's like he's off.
He's not. No, he's always in Shanghai.
It's always a treat. So I would expect that his phone is actually generally more busy than that on all hours of the day, but probably even more busy still, particularly today.
Yeah. This is the time this is going to be one of the hottest times, right? Whenever you have a big announcement like this, and I'd be disappointed if they didn't sell a few more in the next week or 2 weeks, or at least get like really big leads or great just have a lot of traction, with trying to land some more cities.
I think if Blizzard gets 12 to 14, they'll be happy.
Oh yeah.
I think that's from my understanding is kind of their goal. It is like 12 to 14-ish. If they get 12, they're super happy. If they get more than 12, they're very, very happy. Like, beyond happy. But if they get 12, they're good. So
there is such thing as too many teams, guys, like in this first season. I actually
Well,
think that you can have too many.
You have that in other traditional sports. Like a good example there would be you take a look at the NHL, where a lot of people think that the NHL overexpanded in terms of how they went for that. It's like suddenly we have a NHL team in Phoenix. It's like, who plays hockey in Phoenix? Well, no one. No one plays hockey in Phoenix. So,
You'd be surprised.
man,
People play hockey in Florida, like so. People play hockey in Arizona too, believe it or not.
This
I
is-
just
this
know
is a
there's
really-
a special part there. There's a time where you had a team in Phoenix while also not having a team in Minnesota, which is really just.
There's an interesting theory craft here that I look forward to the first time it happens. Somebody relocates in Overwatch League because their market's garbage. That will be a fun time when
you
like, a
think
team
so?
relocates
Oh,
because
wow.
it just doesn't work. I think it will happen at least once. Like I'm not saying immediately, but in the next
Starting
like
over? Wow.
5 years,
Yeah.
5 years, I could see it happening.
Okay.
We'll know we've made it when a team is able to strong arm their local government into building an esports stadium for them. That's how we'll know we've hit.
So
the top.
this is honestly why I'm so surprised. Like I've heard multiple game developers, just kind of a side note, no one's going to Atlanta aside from E-League and
Yeah, that is
DreamHack,
surprising. That is surprising.
because Atlanta, as someone who grew up there, Atlanta in the last 18 months has funded 3 sports stadiums, like to be built. They funded SunTrust Park, the baseball stadium for the Braves. They funded the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is the new soccer stadium and the football stadium.
Mhm.
And then they're just currently funded a renovation of Phillips Arena, which is the basketball stadium. So why the heck isn't there an Atlanta team in this? Because I'm sure the city of Atlanta, with all the money they like to spend on sports, would probably be willing to at least front something.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm surprised there's not one even in Texas either. I mean, there's been huge esport advocates, especially in Houston. The Rockets have an esports. They have an esports group or just a department there now too, right? Or that they created, and
Yeah, they have probably one of the smartest people in esports, frankly. Sebastian's genius.
Seb's over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you also have Seattle. Seattle doesn't have the Supersonics anymore, so you got to throw something in
Yeah,
there.
totally.
I
But
Sorry,
definitely
Seattle fans, I'm
think,
not trying to give you a low blow there. But.
In the case of Texas,
Jeez.
there's only like 2 investors that you would even take seriously in this regard, and it would be Mark Cuban and the Houston Rockets. I've not heard a lot of positivity around either team for the Overwatch League. So, yeah, again, like it is
You're waiting
surprising
around the hoop.
yeah, everybody's waiting around the
Yeah,
hoop.
yeah.
And are we not going to have anyone in? Are we not going to have anyone in the middle of the country? By the way, like literally, we have 2 East Coast teams, 2 West Coast teams, and nobody in the middle of the country.
Well,
Wait,
I mean,
what else is there?
We got to start with the big cities.
Minnesota is
markets.
one. I'm just noting. And Minnesota's actually surprisingly a very loyal sports market when you get into it. Also, of course, Chicago is probably the bigger notable one where Chicago is a big city unaccounted for. And take a look at things. And another city I was going to mention offhand that will come back to me.
Okay. Well,
Again, keep in mind that Blizzard did talk to a lot of sports executives and still are talking to a lot of sports executives in North America. So there's potential for it to happen. But
I wonder if there's anything Blizzard can do. I don't know. Maybe as like a small event. You would think contenders maybe, but like throw some type of event that could be a way to convince some people. Like a selling tool that has more to do with product than it does just a bunch of numbers and slides and presentations. I'm wondering.
What do you think the Overwatch World Cup is?
Yeah, that's what they used it for last year. It was the big
Exactly
spectacle.
Good
yeah.
point. Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
they're gonna use it. They're gonna use it again this year for the exact same purpose.
Yeah,
I think.
at
Like,
BlizzCon.
I think again, it's like there will be a lot of people at the Overwatch World Cup that were not present last year, investment wise, and I think that it is the spectacle. Like, hey, look at our product; it's cool. There's a lot of people in this arena watching, and we're doing this. Like,
I
we're
hope
doing the
Elon
Overwatch.
Musk is there again. I still need to meet that.
Are they
guy
going to put
one
it
day.
in the stadium then, or are they going to like create their own little mini stadium?
I mean,
arena
I would
thing
be
again?
shocked if they didn't put it in the stadium. As wonderful as it has been having StarCraft in the big room, they're going to put Overwatch there this time. I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
they might.
Overwatch is.
The one thing I'd say about that
Overwatch
is
is literally like Overwatch is literally they're throwing all their eggs in one basket. Like
Yeah.
Nate's old job, and it was in a bunch of articles today. Nate's old job was global director of esports at Blizzard. Nate's new job is Overwatch League commissioner. They literally repurposed their esports director to be their Overwatch League commissioner. This is serious now. They're throwing all their esports eggs in one basket, and it's pretty apparent.
Yeah, they'll be pretty telling if they finally move that StarCraft out of it. I know Mike and Amy are probably like, they're gonna hearts are gonna break the day that happens.
My heart's gonna break, Chris. Oh,
I did. You know what? I would. Mine would definitely break too. But I went last year, and to watch the last few matches, and I don't know. It wasn't the same. The year before, it was just like amazing and awesome and getting the feels again. But last season, I just didn't feel it. Like the crowd wasn't the same like it was the previous year. So it might be the right time.
I still loved it, but
yeah. Well, we might have Brood War in there this year, so that could be totally different. But all right, guys.
One more thing that we haven't.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, last point.
Go ahead, Jacob, and then I'll jump into it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, kind of like end on that note. I think the Overwatch League and the Overwatch World Cup benefit each other because the Overwatch League makes hype for people to go to the Overwatch World Cup, and the Overwatch World Cup makes hype for people that aren't invested in Overwatch to be invested in Overwatch.
Yeah.
So,
I know we've been talking about the World Cup announcement for an hour now. I just have one final question I want to pose, and it's pretty obvious, but we haven't talked about it yet. Who are the teams that are not on this list that we expect it to be, and who we think either they're going to get picked up or they're going to get bought or something? I'll start off Envy, obviously.
Okay, you're talking about players and teams. Okay, yeah.
Teams, yeah. I thought the Charlotte Envies were going to be a thing because Envious has already partnered with the city of Charlotte where they're located in pretty significant ways. So I thought we were going to see that at least. Envy, Rogue, there's some really notable teams that don't have teams yet.
I will note one thing here, and I mean, this is something that I think is probably interesting to throw to Jacob, just as far as it goes, is that I do think that at some point there is somewhat of a branding issue for some of these teams in terms of the idea that not every one of these teams has a good name for general sports branding. Like C9 is an awkward name if you're going to brand it. Like saying City C9 sounds a little bit weird. Even for Envy, like Envious is a great esports brand, but in terms of that, like Charlotte Envy, like it immediately stood out to me there that just sounded awkward. Like,
it sure does.
Like they're getting branded with the city, no doubt, but it's sort of like I do wonder about some of the viability of these esports names going forward. Like there's a reason why traditional sports names sound the way they do. That's all I'm saying.
So here's an interesting note to that. If you look at how they structured the press release today, they did not define what teams own those slots in the way they worded it. They said that individuals own those slots. Wasn't that the Kraft Sports Group, even though they are operating the team, they said Robert Kraft. And they didn't say Immortals. They said Noah Winston, the CEO of Immortals. And they said Ben Spoon, CEO of Misfits. Mm-hmm. So I think they are very much leaving open the possibility that they might rebrand some of these teams to have city names. I think that's why they weren't so upfront with like Immortals owns a team or Energy owns a team or Misfits owns a team, because I think they're leaving open. I think they'll come out with like league standardized brand guidelines within the next couple of months.
That should be interesting.
Then even yeah, I mean overall, just some of these names are just not. Like even a case like probably the least offensive is Immortals, and even then Immortals is like I could see it being say an NFL team name, but I do wonder if there's like better team names you could go with.
Well, of course there are better team names, but I mean you have established team names, so if you can reuse the recognizable name, then you should, right? So Immortals, I'd be surprised if they changed that one.
So and to be fair, the Kraft Sports Group started a Twitter called Boston Overwatch, or Overwatch Boston is what their Twitter is right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did. There's an Overwatch Boston account started by the Kraft Sports Group out on Twitter.
Time to follow that one.
And the Soul team actually does have a name and account too. It's called KSV Esports. The Soul team. Is the Soul. So I don't know what that stands for, but that's their name. They set up a website in Korean today that launched, and so some of these teams like they're at least trying to make social push. Like the Crafts is the one that I noticed most visibly. But yeah, and kind of to go back to what Fishstix was saying,
which ones are missing?
A lot of no Wilpons, no Sterling BC on social at the moment. for Overwatch. I didn't see an Overwatch New York or anything like that. And nothing in Shanghai. Nesties has not done anything, or NestDZ has not done anything. So go back to Fishstix question. I think the reason a lot of those teams that you were mentioning, Envious, Rogue, etc., as our chat has been wondering pretty much the entire time I've been watching chat, is that a lot of these teams just don't have the capital to do it. And some of the ones that do, they have other priorities, such as LCS. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's literally as simple as that. Like, yeah, Rogue has money, they have Steve Aoki, but they don't have someone who's just going to bankroll them $20 million, so it's nothing. And even though it is a pay over time agreement, like you're risking. You never sign, as we all know who's ever financed anything. You never sign something you can't pay. So don't sign it unless you got the $20 million to back it up. And I think that's why a lot of these teams are excluded.
Yeah, I was surprised that Liquid might not have been on this team too, because they've been getting their investment group is quite big at this point. I still don't know if they were intending to have that kind of bankroll for a league like that, for like Overwatch League, but still, I mean, all these moves that they've been making recently, I thought was for Overwatch League.
I have a feeling that a lot of those moves are specifically for League of Legends to front of 10 million. Because there's not, up until all of these investments have happened, there were literally, in LCS history, there were 2 teams that I can think of, 3, if you want to count one that's been relegated, that could actually just flat bankroll it because they were started by investors. And that is Energy, Echo Fox, and Immortals, who have all been in League at some point. They're the only ones that ever had the capital to do it. Whereas a lot of these people have been going out and obtaining investments to be able to pay the $10 million franchising fee that was looming for LCS. Because if you're a brand that's built yourself off of League of Legends, there's no reason not to stay in it.
Right.
And so I think Liquid is an odd case because they do have the money to do it. They have more than enough money to do the Overwatch League. I just don't know if they will. Like, I'm not very convinced either way, like that they won't or that they will, because they're still around. Like, and definitely there's been more than one discussion, I would believe. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I think over an hour is probably long enough for this thing. Why don't we wrap up and kind of move on into some of the events of World Cup? We can kind of cruise through this a little bit faster than we would normally do it. But Beat Invitational happened this past weekend, and obviously you guys were covering it and everything. Any big storylines you guys want to talk about with Beat Invitational? Rogue ended up winning it, obviously, over Immortals, but anything you guys, anything stand out to you guys?
I mean, as far as
ZP,
ZP, exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as the tournament goes, it was a great tournament. It was incredibly exciting, and it did sort of answer a storyline where you had Immortals who came out in Contender Season 0, basically untouched towards the very end, very dominant, up against Rogue, a team where they were in the dominant spot for a really long time, and obviously from their win, they're still very much up there, but it does show that there are teams that can challenge Rogue now, if nothing else. Like, Rogue did get bloodied at times throughout the tournament. And it's sort of this entire idea that it adds to the narrative in Overwatch that teams are getting closer over time. And that's very important, too, when you think about things like league implications or anything else. Like, one of the worst case scenarios for something in Overwatch League would be to have just a really stark divide between the teams in terms of who's winning and who's not. It's good if you have, say, one juggernaut, but you want the game in general between the different teams to be close. And we're just continually seeing that we're getting better games, closer series across the entire board. And overall, it was just a very exciting weekend to Overwatch.
Yeah, I was able to catch a few of them. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna talk about the results a little bit. I was able to watch most of the event. I think number one thing for me is Rogue can bleed against NA teams. It's not like they've been completely untouchable, but in most of the recent outings in NA tournaments, they've been pretty dominant. They actually went 3-2 versus Arc 6 early in the tournament, which is a huge surprise to me. Arc 6 did play well. So Rogue can definitely bleed. And the other thing is Immortals made great. Obviously, we do this already from Contenders. Obviously, they won Contenders, but the player swaps that Immortals made were very, very smart. Like, they picked up some incredible talent. I think Kariv is the best Zenyatta I've seen. Like almost in the entire scene right now. Like he blew my mind with some of his play this weekend.
I make the counterpoint for as good as Kareev was, is that there's different Zenyatta styles you get. For example, if you take a look at a Zenyatta like Boombox on the U side is one I would bring up there as well, is that between the two, maybe you could make an argument that Kareev had better in-game team fights, but you also had Boombox, who's just outright getting more kills than most Zens you've ever seen there. So if you're going to say like best Zen in the West, I feel like Boombox v Kareev, you have a very big debate there. But I mean, obviously, Kareev played really well. We never saw Ethan play anywhere close to that level, so that was probably the biggest win there. And likewise, I mean, Fade had consistently good engages. And overall, the bigger story for me for Immortals would actually just be sort of the resurgence of Grim Reality, where I do think Grim sort of has been on an up and down roller coaster, where of course he was with Immortals before they got picked up on Team Sody Pop, made a name for himself on McCree, one of the very best McCrees in the game. Then suddenly you shift to a meta where people aren't playing McCree anymore, and he has to go back and look, gee, what do I play? Well, you get Grim a lot on Soldier, and you get him a lot on Tracer, and neither are up to the same standards of his McCree, and it actually hurts Immortals for a while. But he had a very good and consistent Tracer over the course of the weekend, and it very much helped Immortals in being as good as they were in contesting Rogue.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are asking, should I watch the finals? Yes, watch these goddamn
the
finals.
is great, actually.
We're good.
I want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for people that don't want it spoiled, so you should mute me for like 5 seconds.
I've already said he wanted
No, it was a reverse sweep though.
Yeah,
it was almost sorry, it was almost a reverse sweep. Rogue was up 3-0, and then Immortals just stormed back for 3 maps in a row, which was a super exciting finals to watch.
Jacob, did you catch much? Actually, Jacob, do you watch, or did you get a chance to catch Beat Invitational?
Yes, I did.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the consensus. I actually really like the final set between Rogue and Immortals. Solid play. I did have a question, because you guys would probably know this better than I would. Why is the team that's based off Fnatic Energy and Gale Force, why don't they have a team? Why don't they have something after they have 2 great results
They really
now?
should.
At this
They
point,
really
should.
should.
That's stupid.
I'm sure they're getting approached by teams. It's just a matter of what do you sign with and how do you go for the terms. I mean, if I was advising them directly, I mean, I do talk for the time. It's just sort of like, be careful what you sign here with Overwatch League looming in the shadows. Like, well, it's the type of thing where I think if you are a team getting signed now with Overwatch League looming, you need to be really sure to make sure that if there's like some buyout that you get a chunk of it, would sort of be my advice to teams going forward, is that you don't want a situation where you sign to get some immediate salary, because not everyone is in a situation where they necessarily have as much money as they'd like for day-to-day living expenses. I get that. But you don't want to sign for like $5,000 a month or something, and then have your contract be sold to Robert Kraft for $250,000 a player. That'd be something that would probably make anyone really salty. So that's something where you probably want to watch out if you are a player in that situation. So I'm sure they've gotten some like significant interest, but I don't think you want to rush through contract negotiations there either.
I'm just surprised they haven't changed their name though.
FNRGFE is a truly terrible name. It should change.
I mean, we all know it now, but still, it's not something that will ever roll off the tongue.
It's really rolled off the tongue for me because
it's a meme.
It's a total meme.
FNRGFE. Like, I can actually say it in my sleep now.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Oh, Custom played well too for Arc 6.
Oh yeah, I said I think Arc 6 played great, and
it just makes me wonder, like, what happened to Fnatic, man? They like had so many great players. We saw, Cool Matt and Buds played amazing. Custom played amazing. What happened to this team?
I mean, it's very obvious. They cannot, as far as it goes, they were not able to find a quality support Lucio in the aftermath of deciding that Vonathil wasn't the answer. They went through a lot of it. They were going to get Joe, and I'm not sure if this is public, but now it's so far in the past it doesn't matter, but they were going to get Joe Meister, and they were having very good results with Joe Meister, but Joe Meister was taken by FaZe right before Contenders. So they weren't able to play with Joe Meister. That was A. And then B is that they really had trouble finding a tank that they wanted to throw themselves behind after Stoop decided to step back. And they went through multiple different tanks, but we are in a meta right now where you need to have a very good Winston player to do well. And though they had some promising players that perhaps didn't have everything they needed right away, they weren't able to find that tank that they needed there. They were actually trying out Muma on the very final day, which actually could have worked out really well given how he's played FF and GFE. The problem is that the day they were trying out Muma was also the day that Joe Meister left the team inside the fully signed with FaZe. So if they hit a moment where they could have tried out Muma with Joe Meister on the team, that core probably would have stuck together. But because they weren't able to fill both main tank and support at the same time, that's why that team ended up splitting up, and that's why you had FN or GFE become a thing.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, anyways, with Arc 6, the one thing that did come out, or at least there was a thread yesterday, was with XQC talking about how he doesn't plan, or he doesn't think there's any reason to even scrim. Now that there's no events, between just, I don't know, here, unless you're playing in World Cup, right? There's like literally no events coming up. So I don't know that Arc 16 is going to stay together or what they're going to be doing exactly, but it's kind of sad because they've played really, really well. I'd kind of like to see them play more now because they've had 2 straight tournaments. They've actually done decently. So,
and that brings the question, dude.
Wait, what was the
a lot
first
of these
straight
teams?
Let me just follow up there. What was the first straight tournament that they did well? Like they did well in the beat tournament, but
yeah,
they clearly didn't do well in contenders. They didn't qualify for season 1.
Well, yeah, I mean they did pretty well in the groups, but they didn't play that well in the playoffs. But still,
you can't say like, oh, they did pretty well in the tournament. They did not do pretty well in the tournament.
Sure. They didn't do well in the playoffs.
Cause of their problems as to why they don't have nothing to play is that they didn't do well in contenders.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I don't think a lot of people had that high expectations for them even to make the playoffs. So that's kind of why I was giving them that token there. But anyways, Jacob, you were trying to make a point there, or?
Oh, I was going to say on the point of if there are no big events at this point, and just kind of following up on what you said, CP, if there are no big events and you are a team that doesn't have a contract with a large organization like Liquid or a C9 or a Rogue, do you just not do anything? Like, do you just split your team and just say screw it and hope you get picked up by an Overwatch League team in 3 months?
I think you have to figure out ways of promoting yourself as a player more so than anything else, because I would say right now is that it seems unlikely that for all these Overwatch League teams that you're actually going to see them entirely pick up whole teams as they are now. There's a limited amount of Overwatch League spots and a lot of teams beyond the different regions. And when you look at some of the different teams that are out there, you very much can pick and choose the very best players. Like, to give you an example of like, a swap up you could do there. Like, say you really liked some of the players on LG Evil. Would you grab the entire LG Evil team, or would you go, we're going to grab Jake, Super, and Train, and then actually, we're going to pick up, instead of going for Vol for, say, put them on like Flex World Diva stuff, instead maybe we'll pick up, say, a Cool Mat instead. I think that a lot of the Overwatch League teams coming up here are going to be focused on picking up individually good players rather than just we're grabbing an entire team. I think a lot of the team cores we're seeing right now will get broken up and remixed in various different ways.
Okay. All right. So why don't we move on for now and talk about the Overwatch World Cup, given that it's starting here very, very soon. And first off, the talent was announced. So ZP, congrats on making it on this talent list. Oh my God, this picture's like distorted that I have here. But
it just goes to your browser size.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have my browser set a certain way. But ZP, you're doing Australia and the US.
Burbank.
Burbank.
Yep.
Oh, is it Burbank? Is it okay? Yeah, Burbank and
It was announced as Burbank. Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So congrats on that, man. Really great list here. So lots of people involved, and our buddy Flame actually made it on the list, which was like, all right, this is progress. At least the Blizzard actually hiring him for Overwatch Cup was really, really cool. Or
he has Monte Cristo's support. So if you have Monte Cristo's support and he works in the Overwatch office,
there you go. Yeah.
It's a really solid talent group here. I mean, I feel like you're representing a lot of different regions. Like you have Apex now represented by, in this case, Wolf and Achilles, who are doing Shanghai. You have, of course, North America represented, where me and Hex are doing Burbank stuff because we're doing a lot there. Mm-hmm. I mean, in general, you're representing a wide variety of the different broadcasters that were within the Overwatch scene. And you're getting people in that, have been out for a while that haven't got a chance. You get Zoe in, who of course is a great host, gets to show her stuff at all 4 events. I don't know. In general, like there's for me, I look at this as like, yep, this makes sense. I love everyone here that's working on it, and I mean, honestly, it should be a really good summer of Overwatch.
I
actually
agree.
just think it's beautifully pieced together, and I think that like the set of hosts are really good in terms of direction too. Like I think Malik Forte is one of the better hosts that I've seen recently, based off of what he's done with E-League on television, what he did with the Street Fighter V portion of E-League, and then Golden Boy, obviously, as many of you know. So I tweeted when this came out. I think it's one of the best talent lineups I've seen for an esports event in a while.
All right, Ben.
It's a great list.
All right, Ben. Here we go.
Honestly, I'm pissed. I'm pissed though. JCap deserved to be on this list. Jason Kaplan.
I'm shocked.
Not only is
I'm
he
shocked.
an incredibly talented caster who plays the game at a very, very high GM, sometimes dipping into top 500 range, but he has been around since day one and invested so much time and effort into helping the community, growing the community, hosting his own tournaments. He deserved to be on this list, and I don't know why Blizzard didn't put him on the list. I feel quite strongly about this.
It wasn't his doing.
It's a great list, but
yeah.
Jason should have been on there. Anyway,
So
I wasn't even planning on
my-
bringing this up, but here we go.
My question is, one, he works for ESL, so I would assume that would have to get cleared. But didn't he?
So does
cast
Uber.
contenders as
Uber
well?
works through
Yeah,
ESL.
Yeah,
so.
but didn't didn't Jason Kaplan host, or not host, but cast contenders?
Yeah, Jason was at
Yeah.
Contenders.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some people
so
are saying
I'm
it's
really
because
confused. Like,
Jason's on the committee for US, but
No,
so
there's
is
other
Uber's
people
also on the
Yeah,
committee
there's other people on the
for
committee.
Australia.
No,
So-
committee stuff isn't the disqualifying nature.
yeah,
for
Reinforce is
committee.
playing for
I
Sweden.
know. Reinforce is playing, so that has nothing to do with it. So I don't know what happened. Maybe got somebody mad at Blizzard. I don't know, but it's actually it's a glaring. He's
Also,
the fact that he's
I
missing
think
is
Sideshow
glaringly.
deserves to be on there just because all he does with like the articles and the YouTube videos, and I think his casting is good too. I think Sideshow would have been good, but you can't have like 50 people.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
your
there's only
talent,
so many spots.
But I think Jason, like
Yeah.
with his history, I don't know. Anyway, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm sad about it, but we have 5 minutes left, Chris, and
exactly.
I want to bring something else up because it just dropped 2 hours ago, and I didn't even notice.
What
until
is it?
I said
What is it?
bad.
I didn't see it.
Big PTR changes.
Oh.
Balance patch.
Oh, is there? Shoot, I
You
didn't
wanna
even
just
see that.
You want to
Yeah,
try to
let's-
roll through them in the
yeah.
last 5 minutes here?
Let me see.
All right.
I'm going to skip ahead and note the one thing. I'm glad you brought that up because it's big enough that it's actually just its own title here. Is that so? Graviton Surge right now is still the most impactful ultimate in the game. Like if you take a look at the stats, it is the one ultimate that if you have it, you are most likely to win a team fight. It just got buffed. It got buffed to where now it's like a gigantic
this
Junkrat trap where you can't use any mobility abilities to get out of a Graviton. So Tracer cannot recall, cannot rewind
Oh.
out of a Graviton. Like Graviton is
Wow.
now just even more God mode.
Okay, so
Let's
wow.
roll through
Okay,
this really fast. We only have a few minutes. Doomfist Rocket Punch told this and traveled has been reduced by 20%.
Okay,
I'm
thank
kind
God.
of
Yeah.
I find this one strange because I thought they would have nerfed first the cooldown because Rocket Punch only has a 4-second cooldown. That seemed like the obvious way to start nerfing that to me. But anyway, they've adjusted it a bit.
length. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
Seismic Slam added a new UI indicator to show how much damage it was dealt. Blah blah blah. Previously, blah blah blah. Okay, so this is pretty minor. It's just kind of UI stuff. McCree got a change. Flashbang now slows targets significantly when they are stunned. This makes them less likely to slide away around a corner. This is an incredibly minor change,
What?
right? CP. So like when you
What
get
is that?
stunned, if you're jumping or something and you have momentum, you like slide a little bit. So they're
Oh.
just like
I
decreasing the
wouldn't
amount
call
of
it
slide.
entirely minor. There's a lot of situations in kills where you get a flashbang, but the person moves in a weird way that even at the pro level, people will sometimes be unable to easily fall through. So it's just a way of going, well, we don't like the part where McCree does flashbang and sometimes the person is so out of sorts that you can't immediately follow up. Now we're going to let you follow it up a little bit more reliably.
That's true.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I need to just correct myself. I didn't read the last sentence on Seismic Slam. It's actually really, really big. You cannot jump somewhere higher than where you're at currently. So basically beforehand, Doomfist could uppercut and then like get to any high ground, by just seismic slamming. And it looks like that's no longer possible.
Oh, okay. So
Well,
you can't
it's
change
also
huge
really good
mobility.
You can't
falling
change
off
levels. You can't change
Like,
levels. Yeah.
Seismic Slam used to be sort of this like tether to the edge type of ability when it first came out, where like there's videos of people falling into a pit on King's Row and then going from King's Row to the like out of the pit just by using Seismic Slam. So you're not going to be able to use it as this get me back to a ledge type ability. It won't quite have that functionality
Okay.
anymore.
Yeah. And going through some more of them is Reaper Shadow Step, VO, and sound effects distance dramatically reduced. Okay, that's not a big deal. Reinhardt. Is
helps
it?
a
That
little.
just means you can be sneakier with Reapers, and it is a bigger deal than you're giving credit for. It means that if
Okay.
you're not looking at Reaper, you're more likely to get ambushed by him. So if he teleports behind you, but you're not looking directly at him, instead of hearing the the
Great.
sound and then the like death comes from him, you're not going to hear that most of the time. So the idea that Reaper will get more ambush kills is actually more likely because of this.
Just what I need, man. Freaking Reaper sneaking up on me like they haven't been doing that already a lot lately. All right, Reinhardt got some changes. Swing speed increased by 10%. That's pretty cool. But then again, his charge got nerfed, so maybe not as cool. On top of the swing speed increase, we've gone through the tweaked many timings and things on the hammer. Okay. Overall, the swings and swing and make contact with enemies. Okay, that's good. I mean, I think Reinhardt's been having some problems recently, obviously with just a lot of little things, that's been hurting Reinhardt. So this obviously seems to be not really correcting it, but definitely helping quite a bit. But then the charge, I guess there's no damage done whenever you're charging somebody and then you kind of knock people out of the way. I guess there's no more damage done by that.
Is that a buff or a nerf? I feel like that's a you don't lose health now.
That's actually probably a buff to Reinhardt because charging another Reinhardt did negligible damage, but if you had a trade with a Doomfist, you were taking a lot more damage as a Reinhardt than the Doomfist was taking.
This is like the canceling. Oh, this is the canceling.
And it's like
I
versus
got you.
Arisa's
I got you. Yeah.
And like other charging Reinhardts.
Yeah.
Right.
I see
a buff
what
for
this is.
sure
Okay.
because Reinhardt doesn't do very much damage at all in the initial charge hit. It's the pin against the wall that does the bulk of the damage. So now it means if you trade out with a Doomfist, you're not going to be eating like 8 billion damage from the Doomfist while doing little in turn. So that's actually good for Reinhardt.
Okay, gotcha. And then that's already Graviton Surge is what you were talking about, which is disables movement. So, all right, pretty interesting.
I don't think this is enough for Reinhardt. I thought they were gonna buff his HP or something. I'd actually really like to see Reinhardt get like 50 or 100 more HP.
Really?
See what happens.
You don't need to buff Reinhardt. You need to nerf Winston to the two.
Yeah,
like
I think
again, I'm going to note that
disagree.
Reinhardt has had no changes to
disagree.
him.
Really?
Okay, but I don't see how you could disagree when Reinhardt was must pick for ages, and the only thing that changed that was Winston getting buffed multiple times in a row.
I agree with that.
So, like, how are you able to disagree with that? Where Reinhardt went from must pick to very little picked after Winston buffs, and you're telling me the answer to that is just buff Reinhardt significantly? Like, I kind of feel like rein in Winston a little bit, and that should be fine.
Just never nerf, always buff. Just make all the characters OP. I just like the idea of a Reinhardt coming at you as being a terrifying thing and an unstoppable force versus now it's just like, oh, it's just any other tank. You can just kill him instantly. I mean, it makes sense. Look at his armor, dude. It makes sense in the lore. Like he could have an insane amount of armor and it would make perfect sense. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'd rather keep the other thing too is that I don't want tank power creep. Like already Winston is pretty insane in what he does relative to DPS characters. Like I don't want to double down on that and be like, let's actually make Reinhardt insane. Well, by the way, at the same time, Diva is still insane. Like I don't like tank power creep while at the same time there's a trend of nerfing DPS. Like that I would much rather bring down tanks when they're too strong than just like let's continually buff the tank. So now Reinhardt's really good and let's buff Winston again. And now Winston puts a glance at a DPS character and they just fall before his monkey greatness. Like, please calm down a little bit.
Okay, well, obviously disagree. Right. Obviously, we're all going to disagree on that one. But we need to wrap up. Jacob, thanks for stopping by and giving us the 411 and a lot of the stuff with the Overwatch announcement. And it's your first time here. I've been doing shows for you for a while, so this is really, really cool. And you want to do some shout-outs? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at JacobInWolf. You can find ESPN's esports department on Twitter at ESPN_esports. Yeah, we have a lot of plans for Overwatch. We're going to keep watching or keep writing about it and hope to be a consistent, credible, and unbiased and objective news source for Overwatch. So
we need more of those. We'll definitely have to have you on, man. Next time we got another big announcement here. ZP,
I suspect you'll have a few.
Yeah, exactly. ZP, want to do a shout out?
Yeah, follow me Twitter at TempoZP. Basically it. Also, definitely check out the Overwatch World Cup this summer. Shanghai is coming up this weekend, Australia after that, and of course 2 more events in Poland and California respectively. So definitely check all that out. It's going to be great, and that's just the beginning. There's still, of course, the finals going on later in the year. Good summer for Overwatch.
Those Chinese time zones, man, they're killer. I was like watching the Hearthstone Championship last weekend, and it was like I was dying because I had to stay up like so late. Fishstix.
Dude, the summer of Overwatch esports is finally beginning. I mean, it started with contenders. We had beat. Next week is Shanghai for Overwatch World Cup.
Yep.
Then we go straight to Sydney. We've got, of course, the U.S. or wherever it's going to be, somewhere in L.A. Maybe Burbank, maybe not. Who knows? And then Katowice for Poland. Of course, Contender Season 1 is right after that, and then we're basically off to BlizzCon. So next couple months are going to be pretty entertaining. And I don't know, like I feel like people aren't as hype as they should be. The first World Cup matches start this weekend, guys. It's going to be hype as hell. I'm going to Evo, but you better bet that when I'm coming home from playing blackjack until 2 in the morning, I'm gonna check out Shanghai, not the Shanghai major. That's the. I'm gonna check out World Cup from Shanghai because it's gonna be fucking awesome. So you guys should stay tuned. Lots to watch this summer.
Yeah, definitely great time for all those teams and folks that are playing in it. But yeah, you can find this show on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ChanManV. You can find my Twitter too, at ChanManV. The show's Twitter is the Overview GG. And if you ever have any questions, we didn't get to Q&A today, but if you have any questions, you can email it to the overview@chanmanv.tv, and we'll try to get to them next week. But you can also find the show on iTunes. And if you enjoy the show, want to help out just the SEO for the show, like on iTunes and Google Play and SoundCloud, go ahead and shoot us a nice comment and rating, and that would help us out a lot. But that's going to be it, guys, for the overview this week. So for Jacob Wolf, ZP, Fishstix, and myself, ChanManV, I'll see you next time.
The hot mic.